Such great stuff. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning session all about, how do we make sense of charging for our time? And some of you might have read the post that I did. I come from a fashion design background. And so when I first started up in business for the very first time, that I would say was like a kosher business, it wasn't like a side hustle, it was a proper business that I actually registered and did all that kind of magic stuff to get it up there and running. Pricing was a bit of a mystery to me, and I thought it was almost like magic. You think of a number and you have a go with it. And so when people used to come in, because I was into fashion design, really high-end fashion design, so people would come in with like Vogue, Cosmopolitan, these amazing magazines of the most awesome dresses, usually, for evening dresses. These are all evening and cocktail dresses. And they'd say, can you make this? And of course, I'd say yes. And then they'd say, how much would it cost? I would just make it up. Yeah, I just made the number up. And I knew I'd gone too far if they blinked. And that was the only measurement I had. If they blinked, I pushed the penny a bit too far. And then I'd say, well, we could make it in a different fabric, or we could look at different options of the design. But really, I was just talking bullshit. Absolute bullshit. So I thought, oh, well, the fashion design world is all the lovey sort of stuff anyway. You just get on with it, yeah. And I had an amazing time running this fashion design business. And when I left running that business and I went to work for the enterprise agency, of course, we had the most top-end fabrics, silks, printed velvets. They were all top of the range fabrics. And so you can imagine women who came for a dress, it was £1,000 was the minimum. If it was £1,000 plus, we would go up in prices. That's why I'm saying, it was just people blinked. But we'd never go below 1,000. So 1,000 was the starting price for a dress. And we're talking about 25 years plus ago. So £1,000 was a lot of money, a lot of money. And so these fabrics were really exclusive. So I went to work in the enterprise agency. They coerced me there to go and set up an enterprise centre for women, which was one of the first in the UK. And I thought, well, I'd sold the business off, sold all the clothes off, and I had all these fabrics. So I was thinking, what am I going to do with these fabrics? And an organisation came forward and they said, we would love to set up a community enterprise. So I thought, oh, that's absolutely fantastic. I said, I tell you what, I've got all these exclusive fabrics. Perhaps I could give you all these fabrics and then you could make things out of them as a starting point. And then, you've got a lot of money. And so that's what they did. We allocated people jobs. We even had delivery van drivers and all this kind of stuff because there were men there as well. So we got the men who were involved in the centre involved in it all. So the next, I say it was about a month, I went back to see what they'd made out of this totally awesome fabric. And when I got there, they'd made about £1,700. So I thought, well, what have they done after these fabrics? And turns out they'd made them into toilet roll holders. I thought to myself, can you imagine somebody turning up at somebody's house and saying, in a really fancy dress, and the person saying, oh, you've got a toilet roll holder in that fabric. It absolutely creased me. Anyway, I was so pleased. Yeah. So I went back to the enterprise centre and I said, oh, great enterprise, community enterprise we set up. Yes, they've earned £1,700 now for their community enterprise. You should come out and visit the centre, all the good work they've done, blah, blah, blah. So I ring the next day or whatever, and I say, or within the week, and I ring and I say, I'd love to bring the CEO out of the Enterprise Centre, Business in Focus in Bridgend. Can he come out and see this amazing enterprise? And I could just hear all the voice changes. Oh, I don't think it'd be a good idea. Da, 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 da. And I said, why? And I said, oh, we think you better come up. So I thought, oh, something's gone on. Anyway, turns out they're at a party and blown the lot. just had one big party and they blew all the money. So I was thinking, how am I going to tell my boss now? Yeah, I set up this community enterprise. It was absolutely amazing success, but they lost all the money. I had a big party, all the money gone. Anyway, that's my past. Yeah, a little bit of a story from my past. So I would love to know from your perspective what it is that you do to make sense of how you charge for your time. Because obviously since then, those are the days when I was only about, I think I was 30 when I joined the Enterprise Centre, and I left when I was 35. So we're talking about, about 25 years ago. So yeah, since then, I've done a lot of work on trying to work out how to make sense of how you charge for your time. So I'd love to know from you. So let's grab some of your stories. Karen, how do you make sense of charging for your time? Is there a rigid pricing strategy, or is it a guessing game, or is it my competitors are doing that, therefore I do that? So how do you do it?
All of the above. So part of it is stick a finger up in the air and just hope and pray. Part of it is people that I've sort of sent a quote to and they've just done that whole bit. In which case I've kind of realized they're probably not the right clients rather than it's not the right price. Because I've looked at competitors and seen what competitors do. And actually in a lot of respects I'm actually undercharging. So it's a difficult one because an awful lot of your pricing comes around your own psychology of what you think you're worth as opposed to what you're actually worth.
Mm,
And so many money blocks come up. And I did an RTT session at the weekend where I was the client, looking at my own money blocks. And the amount of SH1 that came out was absolutely crazy. Um, so I'm hoping that I've got an awful lot of that sorted out. But it's amazing what the mind tells itself
yeah,
to justify it.
yeah.
Absolute crackers. So yeah, it's a really hard one because there's an awful lot of psychology involved in it, especially if you're a coach or you're sort of doing something for somebody else, providing a service. Because if it was a product, it would be much easier to see because you can see what competitors are doing, and you just need to think in terms of the value rather than benefits.
Yeah.
But it's something I've always struggled with, to be honest.
Do you think your childhood has had an impact, or your upbringing, or your culture, or where you live has had an impact on this money block?
Oh yeah, big time. One thing that came up on Saturday was when I was really small. Mum had two babies, and my dad buggered off and just left them with absolutely no money whatsoever, nothing to feed us with. And she had to call home. She had to phone the parents in Ireland to ask them to send us some money to actually have some food on the table. And somewhere along the line, I'd picked up this damsel in distress thing where, I needed to be rescued,
All right.
um, because there was always going to be somebody in the background who could bail me out. And it was absolute crackers. But this is what it had come from when
Yeah,
we sort of went right back to it.
yeah. And it's really interesting because I know you well enough, and I know a lot of people online know you well enough, because you're so into helping other people. Then I've heard you sort of talk about your goals for the business, and it's usually about what else you can do to help people. And I could
Yeah.
do this, and I could do this, and do this, and do this. And I can remember when you went, in front of the dragons. Somebody, I think I asked you the question, how do you make money? And it's almost like as if somebody said something quite vile or dirty to you, when it came to, how do you make money out of doing this? It's almost like, so, well, what's that got to do with it?
Oh, that they taught me a whole new backside that day. They really did.
So what happened when somebody turned to you after you said you were doing this, doing this, doing this, and then you were asked, well, how do you make money? How did that feel?
It was just like, well, I don't. I think the funniest thing that came out of it though was I was doing a publish a book into 5 days challenge that I was doing totally for free. So people were getting 5 hours time, teach them to do exactly publish a book, and at the end of it they actually do that. So because it was like, a massage therapist teaching somebody to massage and then being surprised that people don't want to use them as a massage therapist, you know. And what I ended up doing was turn that into a 1 day course where I charged people like 97 quid. And I actually had 20 people come and turn around and pay 97 quid for the course I'd been given away for free. And it was just like, oh, for God's sake. Um, it really is get out of your own way for God's sake. So I'm trying to be better, but I still struggle. And I still, at the core of me, want to help people. And because I always had in the background Tony bringing in the income, it wasn't such a priority if I made money. So I kind of treated it as a hobby. Whereas now, because I don't have him in the background and it's just me, myself, and I, then that's something I've got to figure out. So yeah, it's just watch this space because I'm pricing and me, money and me. Yeah, no, it's absolutely crackers. But I still managed to attract money. It's absolutely bizarre.
And it was really interesting when we both signed up for the RTT program that cost us about £12,000. And
Well,
when,
it was more because that was pounds, not euros. So for me, it was actually about 14,000 euros.
and I know,
And that was a I never spent so much money before anything apart from a car,
and
you
we didn't
know.
know how it was going to be paid, did we? Either of us. We thought we're just going to manifest it. And it's amazing. When you need money, you can draw money. But it's been that focused that you need this money to come. I need this money to come because I have this to pay. And then you start becoming real about money when you need it.
It was absolutely bizarre because I'd signed up on the basis that I thought I had this money coming through, and it turned out it wasn't. It'd have to be after probate. And at the moment, probate is going to be sometime next year because I've got to do probate in Ireland and they've got to refile in the UK, which is like, okay. But along the way, I still managed to pay it off before we went to Rushden.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just like absolutely crackers. I couldn't believe that I was able to do that.
I've got a question for you, and I think it'll help other people because everyone is being driven these days, online especially, to have these free giveaways. So you alluded to something a bit earlier on where you realized you were giving away something that you then very quickly turned into a £99 product.
Yeah.
What is your experience of giving things away for free? Does it genuinely draw people? Or if they're already part of your network, would they have paid in the first instance?
I think it's one of those things where you have to be very careful about what you give away. And one thing you don't give away is your time.
Okay.
And I kind of learned that the hard way. So if you're going to create products to give away, do a checklist, do something that is of value, but don't give away your time. So if you do a discovery call, you're doing a discovery call with the intention of converting that person into a client, but knowing that takes a certain number of clients before, a certain number of discovery calls before you turn them into a client. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But giving away everything for free, why would somebody work with you and pay for you if you're giving it away?
Yeah.
You know?
That's something we can all learn from because when I first started, I had an amazing amount of people who said, "Can I meet with you and talk about my business?" And I said, "Yes, but I can't reply." And they said, "Oh, well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, if you want to book a mentoring call with me, then I can book a mentoring call for you. But if all you want to do is to talk about your business, we can do that, but I can only give you 15 minutes. But if you want advice, it's a mentoring call." And it's amazing how many people think they can just book you and your time is for free. Yeah. And your advice is for free.
But they also guilt you
Yeah.
because who do you think you are that you aren't going to help me? you know, I have this and this to sort out. You're in a position to help me and you aren't.
Yeah.
So that makes you a horrible person.
Mm.
And actually, and it seems to be an awful lot of women that I know it sounds awful, but it seems to be an awful lot of women who do this.
Yeah.
But an awful lot of women would not do that to a guy.
Yeah. So a learning point here as well, like if you check your professional indemnity insurance, you usually find that you can only give advice once you're in a contract with a client in some way, shape or form. So just be very careful giving out advice when you're not contracted to do so with that client. So Ellen, I could see on screen you put your hand up. So was there a question, Ellen, you wanted to add there?
Yeah, Karen, you said something and I didn't quite catch it. You said when you went through your money blocks, a lot of, I think I understand what you said now. I think the word,
SH1.
yeah. I was thinking, what does she mean by that? What's that? But I think,
So if you do SH, a
yeah,
star, and a T at the end of it,
I get it
in
now.
Ireland we call it SH1 because we got SH with an E at the end of it as well.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah, sorry, that was it.
We're going to come to Emma, and I'll come back to you, Ellen, if that's okay, because I know Emma's jumping offline at 11:30. So I just want to make sure that Emma sort of introduces her theme to you as well, because she's new to Iron Woman. So it was really interesting with Emma because we spent her first coaching session together looking at just one product and creating almost like a flow diagram of how the product would be developed, the costing of each stage of the process and how that could be put into a working contract with a possible client. And then before, you know, the proposal was put together, just look at how technology could help on each of those steps along the way to speed up the process and create better value. So Emma, perhaps you would like to share, because in some ways we've already started that process of costing your time in a product. So would you like to share with people where you're at with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I kind of align with a lot of the things that Karen had said as well. I think you get, whether it's your imposter syndrome or anything else, when you're pricing up your time, you start to question yourself, don't you? And I know so when I'm doing business consultancy and personal development, things can be very different with different people, whether it's an individual, whether it's a business of different sizes. So yeah, like Cheryl was saying, for us to actually get and look at, right, well, let's template something that can be made into a product that's repeatable. And also just one thing that we looked at was the mindset of looking at other professions that I may engage with on a personal basis, and kind of how much people charge for their times in that, whether it's kind of in the leisure industry or whatever it may be, and then going, right, think about how much you're willing to pay for different things, and then relate that back to how much you're charging for the experience and services that you're offering, the value that they're given. And I think that was a real light bulb for me. Particularly my daughter dances. I spend a lot of money on her dance lessons. And then I think, oh yeah, actually, I don't think twice about paying a certain amount to a dance teacher, but then kind of I relate it back to my work, which I know delivers a vast return to businesses and their turnover. So the return on it is very, very different. I kind of sometimes wasn't even valuing myself as much as I'm valuing the dance teacher teaching my 7-year-old daughter. And that's not saying anything less of what the happiness that they bring to her is immeasurable. But yeah, it really gave me that moment to think about, yeah, okay, think about other things, not just me and my industry, but other industries and things that I'm willing to pay for. And the reason that I'm willing to pay for them, like the benefit there of my daughter's happiness. And like you said, Karen, it's as well about not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it and what you're getting back from it. So yeah, we've started to write down, as Cheryl said, a real flow process of, right, what's everything that's going to be offered? Where do I have definite costs that I need to integrate into that? Because I provide some physical products as well as time. And yeah, looking at, can some of these things be done by Zoom like this? So it doesn't actually take up more of my time and more of the individual's time who I'm working with. So it just sitting down and we went old school, didn't we, with a flip chart? And I think that really helped to work it out that way and see it all written down. And then even writing it down, I'd then be crossing things out going, oh, actually, if I move this here, I could like not do that bit, and that could save the client a bit of money and actually could save me a bit of time. So I really did value that, just working through it visually, writing it all down, and just taking that moment of reflection to think, am I approaching this in the best way, both for me and for the client? And also making sure that it isn't then price prohibitive, that I'm not kind of over delivering that's then going to add more and more cost into things. So yeah, I think sitting down and breaking it down and just analysing a bit is really beneficial, but also challenging myself as well to realise what my time and expertise is actually worth, and not being afraid of that as well.
And you started off, what was your first hourly rate that you sort of grasped at when we first started talking?
We would, well, initially I was putting myself down at around about the £75 mark, and my daily rate, which I've got for one specific client at the moment, was around £450. But yeah, now we're looking at it, and Cheryl's told me off. And 1 year I really started to analyse it against what other things that I do, like I said, in my day-to-day life, and how much I'm willing to pay for things. I'm like, hang on, yeah, I am just doing that. I'm being nervous of asking people for money and positioning it a bit like listening to you, Karen. I'm the same. I'm like, but I just want to help people. Like, I'm not doing this to try and become a multi-millionaire. I just need to pay my bills and get through the day and be happy and help. But I need to be mindful as well that sometimes when you price low, you devalue what it is that you're actually offering. So yeah, it's taking lots of these things into account and balancing it out.
And I think as well, we need to be mindful when you're a subcontractor for somebody and it's a regular amount of hours you do and a regular amount that you're going to get paid from them. Sometimes as well, when other people ask us to do work, we base it on that. Whereas in reality, a one-off job is not a long consultancy project, and people doing one-off pieces with you shouldn't get the benefit of having, you know, a low entry point. It's because you've mispriced it against a longer subcontracting hourly rate. So that's a learning point as well. So thank you for sharing, Emma. I'm going to come to Miriam, because Miriam, it must be like juggling jelly, trying to price what it is that you do. So
Yeah,
please share with us,
is.
you know, how it works in Miriam's world.
Well, it's a bloody nightmare, Cheryl, isn't it? I mean, if I'm honest, it's really tricky. I mean, being with I Am Woman has taught me how to price things at a better level, and I believe I'm getting better at it. And I mean, I still struggle enormously, but I've just recently finished my first commission where I've been paid properly for it. So that was being a real pat on the back to me, because I used to find that really, really difficult to find my kind of worth. Yeah, it fluctuates. I find it really tricky. And because I have different products, it's knowing how to price those, and then also my services with different workshops and different things. So, you know, it's interesting, Cheryl, what you just said about if it's a one-off thing, then they shouldn't necessarily reap the benefit of having a continual. I hadn't thought of something like that before, but yeah, I am still learning.
Okay, I think we all are, Miriam. So I think we're all on a learning quest. So I hope people pick up some ideas. I just want to make sure we get through everyone this morning, because I want to obviously give you some input and get you busy. So Lynn, over to you. Are you somewhat sort of put in a box with regards to the price of pricing wills?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I obviously base my prices on what other local firms around here charge. So, you know, there is a set structure depending on what type of will you're looking to achieve, really. You know, there are different levels. I think what I find difficult is, well, a perfect example, I went out about 3 weeks ago, spent about hour and a half with the client, took me 20 minutes to get there, went through the ins and outs of everything. They had their 3 children there, which I don't mind, you know, because sometimes they just say, oh, you know, I want my children here to make sure we're understanding it all and whatnot. It was quite complex. So I give them, you know, I don't know what to call it, the ups and downs of every type of will and how best they could protect their home and things. And I didn't hear from them, and I thought that was a bit strange. So I rang the parents about a week later, and she simply didn't answer the phone. So I emailed the daughter, because she was the one that made the original appointment. And I was like, hope you're all well. You know, how's mum and dad getting on? Any decisions in relation to the wills, blah, blah, blah. And she just emailed back, oh, thank you very much. It was a lovely appointment. You went through absolutely everything. We couldn't be more grateful. Mum and dad will think about it and we'll get back to you soon. And I was like, what? But that's not the first time it's happened. You know, and I mean, at least this time I didn't actually send them the draft documents. I have got to the point where I sent the draft documents, got the appointment. They're like, yeah, happy with that, happy with the price, send it out, and then just don't hear from them. So I think it's difficult, because I do say, oh, you know, my initial appointments are free. Have a chat. If you then want to go ahead, great. If you don't. But I think that was a bit too much time. You know, over 2 hours, really.
I think I would have had like a Dobby moment after that, you know, because I think to myself, gosh, given all this time, I would have beaten myself up. I would have really gone through one of these Dobby moments. You know?
Yeah.
As creepers. So I'm going to come to Beth before I come back to Ellen, and hopefully Amy will come online as well. So Beth, I know you can really relate to what Lynn has just said. So can you share with us, you know, what happens in these situations where you can invest loads and loads and loads and loads of time and then nothing happens?
Yeah, Lynn, it's happened to me so many times. I've actually changed my process a bit now. So I used to do a 2-meeting process, one where I'd have the initial chat to the clients, find out what they needed. And then the second one, I'd go back and present all the solutions. And very often they may well say, actually, great, thanks, take the information and do it themselves. So now I've gone to a 3-stage process. So I have the initial meeting and get all the information I need from them. When I go back the second time, I don't present the solution in full. We'll revisit everything we talked about in the first meeting. I'll say to them, yes, I've got some ideas lined up ready for you. How committed are you to solving these problems? And I need them to say yes at that point before I'll go to the 3rd meeting and actually present the solutions. Because I think I've found having those 2 meetings first cements that relationship and makes sure they're serious about doing the business before I go any further. And it's made a massive difference to how many people I actually managed to get sign on the dotted line, in effect.
Wow. So financially, what kind of a shift has that made for you then, Beth? And I know you went through a lot of pain points before getting to there.
Yeah, I'm just not spending so much time on cases that come to nothing anymore, because I don't go through that really big bulk of the paperwork until I've had that second meeting and I know they're serious. And I won't go any further unless they say in the second meeting, yes, we're committed to sorting these problems out. If they're not, at that point, I'm not going to go any further and I'm not going to do any more of the work for them. I'll revisit it 6 months later. I'll contact them again, because maybe in the meantime, they've had some thoughts. But yeah, I've had to go from a 2-stage process to a 3-stage process, which sounds like more work, but actually it means there's less wasted time in my week.
Excellent. Wait. So, Amy, over to you. Where are you at with all this pricing stuff? Oh, you're on mute, Amy.
That's where I am. It's really tricky, isn't it? It's going from the employed to having one rate for VAs to pricing other services up. It is very tricky to get the balance right of spending your time and earning good money for all the work and all the money you put into training to get there. You know, they're paying not just for you and your time, but for like everything that you've learned and your skills. And that's a hard thing to put into monetary value.
Well, I'm going to get you busy now, Amy, thinking about just that. I'm going to go to Ellen now before we start putting our pens to paper. So Ellen, what's your experience? I can see you taking lots of notes there.
Yeah, but for me, I just compared with myself with competitors and people I've used for not necessarily nutrition, but coaching or counseling or something like that, and see what they charge per hour, and then roughly figure out a figure. So it's all kind of a lot of guesswork going in, really. Yeah. Anything you've got to say, I'll be making
some notes. Right, so let's make a start. So if you've got some pen and paper, I'd love you to sort of participate in this. So I'm sure you've heard of the Stephen Covey book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he talks about, to be successful, you've got to begin with the end in mind. And too often when we start off looking at what we should charge, we start at the beginning where we should start at the end. So the end is profit. And profit is what you usually end up paying yourself out of. That's the bit you get in your pocket. So you need to be really clear about, when it comes to your products and your services, what's the profit? And so I'll give you an example, and we'll use Ellen as an example. So Ellen is involved in network marketing. And so if she was looking at the profit first in network marketing, she wouldn't be starting at the beginning, because too often they would teach you how to get clients. And you're starting at the beginning as opposed to starting at the end. So if Ellen, through her network marketing business, looked at how much profit do I need to make, and then work it backwards, the scaling of her sales would be totally different, and her marketing strategy and her sales strategy would need to be totally different. Because usually in network marketing, you order what it is that you sell to a client, as opposed to ordering enough product to make the profit. And I know that's almost like turning the whole model on its head, Ellen, isn't it?
Yeah. Network marketing is, at the beginning, you work a lot of hours for little pay, and then there's a pivot in the business where you start working little hours for a lot of pay. So yeah, most people fall off in the first half of it because they're in that employee mindset instead of a business kind of mindset of it all. And once you get that, I think that's when you reap the rewards at the end. Yeah.
Because you've got 2 income streams. One with regards to creating other people to be a version of you, and also product income. And it's usually network marketing, people forget the product income with regard to the commission on the products. Well, that product commission is profit. And so when you start calculating and working it out for yourself, what is my business model? You've got to be really clear about how much profit do you want to make, or what do you need to make in order to pay yourself a salary. So it's being really clear, going right to the end. And there's a great book on this, Profit First. I don't know if you've seen it, Profit First. So it's Profit First, and it's written by Mike Machoprix. It's a funny name, and I'll pop it in the chat box. So it's really working out what profit do you need to make, and you can only do that if you really understand all your expenses relating to making that profit. But the profit is critical, and without you understanding the profit, you'll never make any money doing what you're doing, because you'll be focusing on the how as opposed to the result. And we really should be starting with the end in mind, because once you start understanding your profit, you can easily convert that to an hourly rate, because you can work out very quickly what the materials are, and then work out, okay, how many hours does this product take? Okay, so for my chargeable hours, I need to be really, really clear about what is my profit that I want, and then work it backwards. So can we pick up another example? So can we go to Miriam, because Miriam's got a product. So Miriam, when it comes to your artwork and doing commissions for people, do you know how much profit you want to make based on, you know, the investment of hours you're putting into creating something for?
No.
So what happens then? So isn't it a bit like looking for a cat in a dark room that might not be there?
Yeah, it's really hard to price it. I'm getting better, but especially when I'm asked to do larger commissions, obviously it's going to take longer and I'm going to use more paint and the canvas is going to be bigger. I'm getting better at pricing for the actual materials, but then for my time, sometimes I think it will take me X amount of time, but 9 times out of 10 it takes longer. So the profit isn't as much as I thought it would be.
Okay, so what is your hourly rate as an artist?
I'm too scared to tell you. £25.
Right. So who's gonna talk to Miriam first? Who would like to talk to Miriam about her hourly rate?
I've got tough skin.
Go on, Karen. So what would you like to tell Miriam about her hourly rate?
Yeah, it's not printable. I have paid a lot for art. And I know it's like when you talk about speakers, you know, there are people who can charge an awful lot more and you would expect them to be charging an awful lot more. So if you had speaking event and you wanted the Dalai Lama, you'd be talking about a lot of money. Whereas if you talk to somebody else, it'd be a lot cheaper. And I think with art, it can be very difficult as well, that you've got to make yourself a name. But you also have to remember that that big canvas that you did for Rachel, you know, that is absolutely amazing. And if you think about how much it would cost to buy a print to go for that, to buy the frame for that, you know, it's absolutely crackers. I know that I've spent an awful lot of money on art over time. You know, I've got etchings that I paid 150 quid for that basically they're copying, you know, that they're essentially printouts. So you really do need to look at how you value it and think about when you do the teaching as well, what people get out of that. Because people are prepared to pay a bit more for art. One of the guys I follow in Westport, his daughter was actually on Portrait Artist of the Year. At the time when I wanted to have something of his, for me, I was looking at 3,000. It's now 10,000 for a piece of his art. And yes, he's a good artist, but he's built up a reputation. And it's still, you know, 3,000 was a goal, 10,000 was less of a goal. And it was really bizarre because they were very similar paintings, but he's evolved over time as well. So people are prepared to pay more, but it is where you market it as well.
So can I pull this back then? So if you were to start reviewing your pricing, Miriam, and start thinking about what Emma alluded to earlier, you know, the way that I look at it as a starting point, when I go and have my nails done in a hotel, yeah, so if I go to somewhere like the St. Bride's Hotel or somewhere to have my nails done, I pay a minimum of £60. And it's the way they work out time in a salon is £1 a minute. So then I start asking people to start thinking about how much over and above a nail technician do they feel their skills sit, yeah? Because it's really valuing who you are as a person how much time you've actually invested so far, your skill, your talent, your reputation, and I know what you're like. You know, it's not only the time you're actively doing it. There's a lot of thinking time. There's a lot of prep time. It's not just, you know, sitting down and saying, "Oh, I've got 2 hours now and I create a painting." That's not how you work. So if you were to start to think of a realistic number to start with, as far as what your hourly rate is, but if you actually were to put that down on paper now in front of you, yeah? So say, for example, you decided, okay, you know, I'm 95 or I'm 125 or something like that, and put the number down, and then seriously ask yourself the question, how much do you need to earn yourself in a week? So how much do you need to earn in a week? What kind of money are we talking about that you intend to earn in a week? Or would like to earn a week? You know, this is your goal. This is your, you know, profit projection. So how much do you want to earn in a week? That's aspirational as well, that motivates you, that gets you excited when you get up in the morning. What is it?
£500.
How many hours do you work in a week? Chargeable hours. These are chargeable hours.
Well, even on stuff that I'm not producing stuff.
Yeah, I want to know your chargeable hours.
Well, I probably work about 20 hours a week.
So you're saying
more.
Okay.
25 hours a week, probably.
Is that chargeable time?
Well, that's for creating cards, you know, it's all for a end result.
Okay, so you're saying 500, yeah? This is what you want. This is what's currently happening, yeah?
Yeah.
Divided by, and you're working 25 hours. Yeah? So you're making £20 an hour.
Right.
Do you want to make £20 an hour?
No.
So how much do you want to earn then? Because £20 doesn't reflect skill that I see in Miriam. So what's happening?
I think because I am a self-taught artist.
It's nothing to do with it. It's nothing to do with it.
No, I know. Because I haven't got anything to compare it by.
Yes, you have. Picasso. Or whoever, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you can compare it with. Just go. I know you already sell in Makers Gallery, so you do have a comparison. So you're telling fibs, Miriam. You're telling fibs, you are. So you're telling fibs.
To who? To you?
Yourself.
What am I saying? What? That I'm not worth enough?
Well, you know the comparison because you sell in galleries and you can look at the other exhibitions to see what the other artists are selling. And I know you have visited lots and lots and lots of galleries and have looked at other people's work.
Well, I am getting closer to being of a similar price.
Well, you're only £20 an hour at the moment.
Well, I don't know what to say, Cheryl. I mean,
so why?
It's all kind of guesswork and stabbing in the dark.
Well, no, it's not, because you're who put a hand up? Who thinks Miriam's worth more than £20 an hour? There we are.
Well, no one's going to not put the hand up, are they?
No, well, we've got some money blockages going on here. Yeah. And is this about lack of self-worth? Is this about, you know, lack of belief in your skill, talent? Are you is there some sort of misreading of your, you know, how you compare yourself with other artists?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm getting better at understanding my what my value and what I have to offer people. It's now pricing it.
Okay. So if you're saying £500, that's what you want to make in a week, and you're already working 25 hours, yeah? And there's materials and all the other stuff that goes along with running a business, you know, your light, your electricity, all your software licenses, all your memberships to different things, the car, all that kind of stuff. You're probably working for nothing. Where's the profit after you've taken out all those expenses? That's not fair, is it, Miriam?
Pardon?
So a great starting point for Miriam is to start looking at, you know, what's the bundle of these expenses cost in a week? Yeah. So if they cost you about, say, about £200 a week, yeah, and then work out over and above those expenses, how much should Miriam be charging for her sheer skill and talent? Yeah. So say, for example, materials, you know, you've really got to be creative with materials, because people used to come for fashion gowns, yeah, and they'd say, oh, I'd really like this gown. Well, I could only buy bolts of fabric in 25 meters, 25, 26 meters. So I never charged them for 5 or 6 meters or 7 meters for their dress. I charged them for 26 meters of fabric.
Even if you don't use it all?
It's not my problem. I am not paying to have their material on my shelf that I've paid for when it's their dress.
Even if you knew you were going to use it again, because
I might not, but I wasn't going to carry the loss for I don't know how many months.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult with oil paint, because I know I am going to use it. I'm not just trying to come up with excuses here. I know I'm going to use the paint, but that is something very difficult to price.
Well, you just charge them a job lot. Just charge them a job lot. Yeah. Otherwise, you're buying things that just stick around, and the only person who benefits is the customer. Yeah. So you need to start to get real about, you know, what are the true costs of you running a business? These are called fixed costs. What are your fixed costs for running a business? Because you've got to cover all that off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ellen, you've got a question?
I just want to say, it's not about the paint. You have to put that into cost, but it's about only you can paint like you do. So it's invaluable. You know, you're unique, and that not everybody can paint. You can. That's in itself is worth a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah. It's almost like as though you've forgotten the magic you bring. You are one incredibly talented emerging artist coming onto the scene who was so talented. It was almost like when I met Lorna, yeah, I met Lorna 2 years ago, and I said to her, you are talented beyond even what you think you're capable of. And those people who were at the last retreat, when they saw Lorna's work, we were gasping in so much air, we nearly over breathed and fell on the floor, because it was just so incredible. Yeah. And so again, I think you need to begin pricing with your end in mind. Yeah, and have some conversations with people and listen to the praise that they give you, because you are exceptional, Miriam. Your story is exceptional. Yeah. When you do a commission for somebody, your heart is in it. You go and see the space it's going to be hanging. You talk to them about, you know, what it is that they're expecting. I'm sorry, that's not £20 an hour. Yeah. You're not £20 an hour. So I would say you know, just taking a guess at it. Yeah. And if you know, to scale it up from there, I would say you're even more than £100 an hour. Yeah. A nail technician is £60 an hour. How much more skilled are you than a nail technician working in a hotel? Yeah. You're going to double it? Yeah. So that when you turn up at a commission, yeah, and they ask you, you know, I bet they don't even ask the price until right at the end. You know, you've sold them the dream of what they're buying. Yeah, you've sold them what it's going to look like on that wall and what it's going to do in that room and how it's going to make them feel. Yeah. After you've done all of that, and I've seen you because you've come here and you've done this with me. Yeah. If you, I'm telling you now, if you turn around and said to me, I'm £20 an hour, I'd say, you're not for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're not matching the price with my expectations of the quality that you're then going to deliver for me, because the price just doesn't add up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of you in the realms of a taxi driver or a cleaner. I pay more for my cleaner. I pay more for a cleaner. I pay more for a gardener. My gardener's £35 an hour.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we need a session, Miriam, where we sit down and do the actual pricing on all of this, yeah?
Yeah.
Let it all soak in. But the thing I want you to soak in more than anything else is your sheer talent and the love you show people for giving them exactly what it is that they want.
Mm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all behind you, Miriam. We love you. We love you. Yeah? And we want Miriam to have more, please, for Miriam. Yeah, fantastic. So we're going to come to you, Amy. How do you do this costing then?
Well, you helped me with that. So she did exactly the same, Miriam. So when I worked it all out of what I wanted and yearly and costs and everything, I was just like, there's literally no point in me carrying on if I keep the price, because I might as well go back, well, work in Tesco, have no stress, go back to teaching. I might as well have given up at that point if I stayed where I was, instead of seeing the value and the inputs and everything that I like studied and paid for and over the years. So, they're not paying, they're paying for you, for your skills, but I still don't think I'm worth it. I'm still trying to work on that. So
and it was so funny, wasn't it, Amy? Because you first of all, you told me the hourly rate that you were working for, and then you told me the hourly rate that the people you subcontract in.
Oh yeah, I valued them more than myself. I would gladly pay them more than I was going to get. Oh, well, that's stupid. Let's have a business and give everybody else the money to work for me instead.
And then we sat down and looked at, okay, what was your strategy? So what's your strategy now going forward? Because we haven't met up for a while. So how is that playing out?
Oh, lots of ups and downs.
So what's been happening?
So I have clients that I have a regular income, so they are less money because it is guaranteed for years to come. It doesn't take much effort, so that's a different aside. And then worked out rates for a call. So again, it was all the market research, what does everybody else charge? Where would I place myself in the market? And I might have the knowledge, but I'm not well known yet. So it is, how much time is it going to take me to do things? Not only the calls, but the prep and afterwards and all that thing to take it into account. Just to arrive at a figure, like how much time am I going to charge per hour? How much time is it then going to take me before and afterwards to work out like one-to-one calls? And then equally, if it was a package to set up launches and things, well, actually, how much time is it going to take me? And then, yes, charge an hourly rate, but almost have a buffer percentage.
So what did you start off? So what did you start off with as an hourly rate, and where are you at now? We want to know the numbers.
So when I first started a year ago, I was, oh yes, I'm worth £20.
Let me hear in this mirror.
Not. Yeah, I'm worth 25. Like, no, I'm not. I'm worth 35. No, I'm not. I'm worth 65. But that's only for now. So once I finish the rest of the courses and get more experience, by next Easter, I'm going to be increasing that. because
"Hmm,
the more, for me, the more I talk to people, the more I go to networking, the more that I speak to them to get value off them, I'm realizing that I know just as much, actually. In fact, I've got more life experience, so I probably know more. And then when I go on calls or trainings, I've been on one. I think I told you last time, Cheryl, I went on one and the trainer actually said, you should be doing this call, you know more than me. It's like,
And what's interesting, Amy, in all of this that I think we all got to take on board, you would be doing exactly the same work in exactly the same time for £20 as you're now charging for £60. So you've tripled your own income, and it's all been driven just by you. It's you making that decision that
Yeah.
you're worth more than £20. You're delivering to the same clients, the same thing, and
Yeah.
you're charging £60.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting phenomenon. And I think a lot of this starts with ourselves. So we're getting to the end of this morning. So I'm going to propose that we have another workshop on this and look at money blockers, because people have obviously got money blockers that's blocking them from charging what their worth is. Karen, could you do a session on money blockers? You're the mistress of money blockers.
Only because I have every single one of them.
So we're going to be doing money blockers next week. Okay, we're going to. So I'd love to know. Let's capture some tips you've got from this morning, because time has just run away with us this morning. Because it's such a massive, massive subject, and I know Beth has got a lot more to contribute as part of this whole topic. Because of course she helps people work with their lifetime goals and monetizing that. So I'd love to know this morning. What have you got out of this so far, but what have you got yet to learn? So Ellen, over to you. What have you learned from this morning, and what do you think you've still got to learn on this topic?
I'm going to do what you suggested. What do I want to earn a week from it and work back from that, or even a month? I haven't done that. I need to, I think I'm roughly okay, but then, yeah, I'm going to reassess, definitely. I'm going to buy those books as well. Yeah. I'll be here next week. I want to unblock every.
We got to get unblocked.
Get me unblocked.
Okay, Karen, what have you learned from this session, and what have you yet to learn that it's still preying on your mind?
I think for me, to start off with, I just want to give Miriam a hug.
Oh.
Because she just doesn't understand her value, and I just want to give her a big hug and I want to RTT the shit out of you. Excuse me. So I think, yeah, we need to do an RTT session here to get rid of this block. For me, I think it is about understanding my own value, and what I've done is that sneaky thing of, I'm sorry, but I can't actually give this information for free because it would invalidate my indemnity insurance. And I'm just sort of, oh, I like that.
Yeah. Lovely. Okay, thank you, Karen. So coming to our amazing Amy. Amy, what have you got out of this morning, and what have you got yet to sort of put in place?
I know I've done a lot of work with you on it, but I definitely need to revisit how much do I want to make, what profits, what does that mean with clients and time and value and money. Yeah, I definitely need to revisit that again, make sure that I'm on track.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll get busy on that soon, as in next week. No, this week. Okay, lovely. Miriam, oh, I feel they've all been picking on you, Miriam, including me.
Pardon?
I feel as though we've all been picking on you, including me. Big hug, virtual hug of the computer.
Thank you. I don't know. Wow. I don't know. I've got a lot of work to do.
And we love you. And we see your value. And we see your talent. Amazing. Oh, I'm going to give you another hug. Oh. And we say all this with love, Miriam, don't you?
mute.
I need it. I know that, but I don't even know why I'm upset.
I wonder as well, Miriam, if there's an element of it. Sometimes we feel guilty. If we love something so much, we feel as though we've already had the privilege of doing it. We forget it's still a business. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. And where it's come from, your idea has almost come from a deeply sacred place that's pumped full of love. And so perhaps there's an element of guilt around, I shouldn't be making money out of this.
But it's also coming from grief as well.
Yeah.
You know, you started off the art therapy as grief therapy, and you do grief therapy with other people, and perhaps that's something around it. But we'll sort it out.
Yes, we'll sort it out.
Cheryl's going to be qualified this afternoon when I get sorted.
Thank you, Karen. Over to you, Beth, because you're a font of all knowledge on all of this stuff.
You know, the first thing I've learned is some fantastic new shelf phrases like juggling with jelly and looking for a cat in a dark room that may not be there. They're new. But no, this whole working backwards is exactly what I do with my clients, but I do it on a larger scale. So we look at where do you want your life to be when you retire, when you're in your 60s, your 70s, and we work backwards. So it's the same principle. You've just got to follow that process.
And what do you feel about people setting their profit up first so they can work it out backwards?
It means you're going to be doing something that's realistic in getting you where you need to be. Otherwise, you could be working like crazy and never get where you need to be. You've got to get that end goal in place and work back from it. You may find that it's unrealistic. Maybe you have to tweak that end goal, but at least you've assessed it and worked out whether or not it's something that you can actually do. So no, it's definitely the way to go.
And I know there's so many people that I see who are undertaking, for example, taking out a loan to set up their business. And you then say to them, but do you have the money to pay it back? And they've never even thought about paying it back. Yeah. And
It's planning can often be lacking. The dreams are there, the vision is there, the determination is there, but you've got to get the planning for the money behind it as well.
Yeah. And then when you start saying, you know, well, you've got all these bills to pay, you will have an office to pay for, and you'll have a car to run, phones to pay for, all the licenses, and a loan to pay back. How much are you aiming on turning over and making as clear profit to pay these bills? And it's almost like as though, you know, it's a massive reality check for people. So, you know, the money side, we've got to get right. We've so got to get right. So thank you for that, Beth. And coming to you, Lynn, what have you learned and what have you still yet to learn?
I think I've learned a lot, and I really, really feel for Miriam. But one thing I will say, in my last job, we were obviously all on different levels, from the person that made the tea right up to the bosses. And when I learned what my hourly rate was, I nearly fell off the chair. And I did actually say to my supervisor, I was like, how is it that much an hour? And she said, because of your knowledge, your experience, and the years it's taken you to get to where you are. And I think that's what Miriam needs to be thinking along the lines of. People are paying for her time, her knowledge, her experience. You really do need to put those prices up. But it is easier said than done. But I am going to follow a bit of Beth's knowledge and maybe put a 3-step process in myself. Stop some of my time wasters, really. Because it is, it's a lot of time. Like I say, it was near enough 3 hours, including travelling. And, that is a lot to give away. Yeah. It's half a day's work. So I'm just not prepared to do that anymore. I don't know what I'm going to put in place, but I'm not prepared to waste 3 hours. It's a lot of money.
And perhaps do like a discovery call online to discover, are they ready to proceed?
Yeah.
They pay for their will, a basic will, before you come out. So at least they put some money in the pot.
Yeah. It's funny because I did start asking for some people for a payment up front. And I always found that it was getting to the point that everybody was paying. And I thought, I sound like I'm being a bit greedy now by saying, no, can I have part payment up front? So then I stopped asking. Then people start messing around. And then you think, got to start asking again. So it's like up and down, up and down. So I don't know, maybe just put it in place and leave it there. And if people genuinely want the work done, then they're going to pay anyway, aren't they? They're going to mess about, then they're not even going to pay the deposit, I suppose.
Yeah. So I've put in the chat box, Profit First by Mike, that funny name. Yeah, it'd be great if you could get a copy through Amazon. Great book. I refer to it lots and lots of times. I'd like to thank you all today for your honesty, because everybody's been so honest with where they're at and sharing their stories. And, you know, those, sometimes it's almost like as though you're ripping out your veins when you're telling somebody your hourly rate. Yeah, it's a deeply personal thing to share. So thank you so much, everyone, for turning up and being so willing to share, because so many people will be watching this afterwards and will just love your honesty and your passion for doing what you do. Next week, we're going to have a go at money blocks. Then we're going to take apart whatever's going on for you and start helping you become far more aware of what's holding you back, and look at some strategies to help you move forward and make a massive success of how you're dealing with these numbers, the numbers that relate to your profit that actually creates the lifestyle that you're looking towards attaining. So perhaps, Beth, you can give some input on this next week if you're available, for us to start talking about this end in mind that you go through with people, for them to be really clear about this business. It's almost like the job you've created to make your dreams happen. So it'd be really lovely for Beth to give some input on, you know, where do we start? And then it's almost like the money blockages are almost like these little monsters that come in and sit on our shoulder and start telling us a load of rubbish of what we can and can't do. And then so we can dispel, we can push them off our shoulders and get on with making our dreams come true. So have a great week, everyone. Look forward to catching up with you all next week, 11 o'clock, and have a great week. Cheerio, everyone. Bye. Bye-bye.